Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Variety Hour. We're very excited because it's AFL Round 1 Eve. Don't forget to leave a Zuper Duper out for the Gillan McLaughlin family fairy, I was going to say, tonight. It's very exciting. And with me, I've got Francis Leach. Francis, how excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, as they said in Spinal Tap, Titus 11. It goes to 11. This one goes to 11. And you know the footy season is back, the silly season is back, when you read a column in one of the newspapers that tries to cross-reference either a science or historical touchstone that just sounds strange, odd and downright weird. And I think Chris Judd was first out of the blocks in The Age yesterday trying to equate Richmond's situation as a defending premiers with being an apex predator in the food chain in some sort of Darwinian exercise of trying to understand why everyone else was going to try to bring them down.
And it had like a reference DNA and all.
And reproduction as well.
It was because what it was great is that as a writer, you sometimes look at these things and you do it yourself where you go, okay, I'm starting off my thing and everything, and you go, oh, I've taken this analogy a bit too far, or this is a bit, he was sort of doing that thing. They used to say, George Bush's speechwriter once said, and it was probably the only good thing he ever said, that when you write, he was writing about the post 9/11 speech, and he said, speechwriters always try and reach for the marble, and what they mean is like some quote that will go down in history as, like 7 years ago or something like that. And Judd was just reaching a bit too far for a footy column.
He should have been playing marbles rather than reaching for the marble. It was like, as someone said on Twitter, and I love this, it's like he found his year 10 sociology notes or his biology notes and went, right, I'm onto something here. Football is now just part of the Darwinian food chain, and therefore one of these clubs will be extinct by the end of the year, like the White Rhino.
Do you think he's rang the guy who actually writes his columns and said, mate, we better tone this down?
Well, it's interesting. Everyone was saying that they thought that Chris's columns were ghost written. I'd imagine Chris is quite capable of writing his own columns.
But a lot are, but I don't know if some can't at all. I know quite a few people who have ghost written footballers' columns before, but some, even if they can, do they want to?
Some really do. I think Dermot was pretty keen on writing his own columns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bob Murphy does, and he's actually a very good writer.
Tim Boyle does. I mean, Tim's columns are fantastic. In the Sunday Age. So
I get mine ghostwritten.
Do you?
Yeah, it's 5 work experience kids. They're
like
just much cheaper. I rotate them through.
Is it the Peter Fitzsimons model, is it? Just have a warehouse of highly intelligent and motivated, brilliant young people to...
Is that what he does for his books?
No, he has an army of researchers.
I wondered how he churned out those so much.
He cops a lot of criticism from the true historians, or the academic historians, but Peter's great talent is that he can tell a story. I've seen him in public forums just be spellbinding with
because he did the Sports Writers.
Yeah, he was brilliant,
festival.
Absolutely brilliant last year with his take on why sport is a force for good. He didn't have any notes. He was just got up there and did this incredible rave about sport and the characters that he thought actually proved his point. He's a great writer. He knows his strength. He's a great storyteller. He probably gets other people to get granular on the detail.
Yeah. Well, we had, talking of the Sports Writers Festival, you had your event last night with Conrad Marshall.
What a gentleman he is. And his mum as well. They're selling books.
Commercial Club Hotel, and I went down. It was you interviewing him about his book, Yellow and Black, which is a chilling tale of Richmond winning the premiership. It still feels right. It was this... Being in a room full of that many Richmond supporters, Francis, it did stretch our friendship that you'd put me in that position.
But it wasn't wonderful and a little bit odd that if you'd done that 12 months ago, the energy in the room would have been one of tension and this aching longing and desperation for something that seems unattainable. This was like one of those... It reminded me of what it must have been like to be in Jonestown when Jim Jones asked you to take the cordial. I mean, he got you to a point.
That's what it reminded you of.
It got you to a point of being so serene with whatever fate was about to befall you.
They were very chilled out, the Richmond supporters.
It was very strange.
The usual angst of the season's about to start with Carlton Richmond and where you get, what pain is coming our way was replaced by they were just very happy. And then there was a moment at the bar, I think just before you went on stage, where you and I were chatting, and you as a St Kilda supporter said to me, hopefully this is us, you and I get this chance one day. And I said to you, it'll never happen, mate.
Exactly. Then we laughed a bitter knowing laugh. But it was great to share that
It was a great night.
Yeah, it was a great night. It was good fun. And Conrad is just a wonderful storyteller and a brilliant writer. And you got a sense from talking to him about just what an extraordinary experience he had. I think right at the end of the night when he was talking about, there's one moment he tells the story about how after the grand final win, he's sort of standing with everyone else to, watch the mayhem of ecstasy that was happening with the success. And the players have to go into the meeting room, the 3-tiered sort of meeting room everyone sees on telly. And it was, okay, everyone in the meeting room, players, coaches, and Conrad. So he got to be, as a fan, he got to be present and welcomed and part of that, which is what an experience that must have been.
Gee, Melbourne won't even return my calls. It's a different approach. He's a lot nicer about Richmond than I am about Melbourne, though.
That'll change if they start looking like they're going to win a flag.
Oh, yeah. Will it not?
You'll be in here wearing face paint and there'll be cheese platters that laid out so that we can enjoy a true Melbourne hospitality.
Another one of these events next week, which is Martin Flanagan about the Bulldogs.
A wink from the universe.
Tuesday night, it's 7:30.
7:30.
Commercial Club Hotel in Fitzroy there, which is a great pub.
Great footy pub. So tickets at Mosh Ticks if you want to come. And because Martin is such a unique writer and a great storyteller in his own right, it'll be a fantastic occasion just to get his take on not only the footy club but the community it represents.
You can talk to him about Tassie after Gillen's visit too.
Oh, yes.
That'll be worth talking to him about.
It's Tassie or Tanzania.
That's right.
Which territory?
Well, Gillen's down there today.
In Tanzania.
Well, who knows? He just got on a plane. He's going to fly over and just wave at Tasmania.
Is it a bit like one of those journeys that, say, the Prime Minister takes to Afghanistan? You don't tell anyone you're coming just for security reasons. Like he gets off in Launceston in a flak jacket. And
that's right. You know what I think he should do? He should do a press conference today in Tasmania and do it on a boat and in the background have mission accomplished behind him on a banner. Because I think that would go down really well. We should get on to the business of the day. And not only is it round one in the AFL, we're getting into, in a terrible bit of scheduling by the AFL, we're getting into the AFLW Grand Final. And the women's game has met the men's game head on when it's reached equality when we have a suspension controversy the week of the grand final.
Well, it feels like it has come of age with heartbreak.
Yeah,
that's the way to describe it. Because
that's what you need.
You need those stories.
You can't just have happiness all the time. Unfortunately for Katie Brennan, you need these ones that people will remember in years to come and say. Like, people are outraged, a lot of people, while others are saying, well, that was it. The thing that seems interesting is they're comparing her tackle and her getting punished to Cochin and saying it's potentially like him getting off last year or not getting charged, I think, in the end. They're comparing. Do you think she's unfair? Like, if this had happened...
Oh, look, I'm conflicted on this. I was involved with the Western Bulldogs AFLW team in season 1, so I got to know Katie and do a bit of training with her and watch how she trained and how she prepared and what an amazing footballer she is. So my admiration for her is enormous, and I'm heartbroken for her because I know how hard she's had to work to overcome her ankle injury.
Well, she looked like it last night. Like, she was devastated, as you would be.
She would be.
There were the images there, historic images, as much as they're not great. They remind me of,
It's like, John Coleman or one of those guys, missing out on big moments because of suspension or injury, and it'll be absolutely heartbreaking for her. And I don't know how she'll cope with Saturday because she's the heartbeat of that team. She's clearly the standout leader in that team. She's clearly the best footballer in that team, and I would say up there with the best in the AFLW competition.
Do you think she'll be hoping for them to lose then?
No chance. No chance of that. You are such a mean-spirited bugger, aren't you?
Gorbat Ale quote, every time a friend succeeds, a part of me dies.
You're wonderfully honest. Yes, as Morrissey said, we hate it when our friends become successful.
That's right. Yeah. No, it was interesting. I mean, I think it showed more that Cochin, I think, was very lucky last year.
Well, there's no doubt, the AFL pick and choose the moments where they want to be, black letter law. So
you're saying this is sexism?
No, I'm not saying that, but I think it's an easier it's an easier space for them to be hardline on something than it would have been with Trent Cotchin, as they were with Barry Hall back in 2005 when he gave Matt Maguire a punch in the guts, and they strangely ruled that somehow within the realm of being in play, and he was able to play in a grand final. So, they still pick and choose. I'm not sure that having the standalone judge, jury and executioner in Michael Christian is the best way to go. I know they referred that to a tribunal, but that's still very much...
That'll depend a bit on... with time, will he prove that having one person, not just necessarily, it's not all about him, but just having one person, does that provide more consistency than having a rotating cast or all three people who don't always agree?
We are in the age of authoritarianism, aren't we? So we can just have the standalone strongman making these decisions, right. Putin and Trump style.
It's much easier. I think just Gillen should make the decisions. Just go straight to him.
Indeed.
Just what mood he's in.
We just get him in a uniform with some epaulets and some mirror shades, and he can finally become what he really is.
The Bulldogs' defence, though, did seem... this was a Hail Mary appeal. Even the following it on Twitter and from a few of the journos that were present, it seemed like it was sort of, this is the vibe kind of argument of, and it's just really unfair that it's a grand final.
I know. Who wants to kick a puppy?
Yeah, that was it. Like, it wasn't really... There didn't seem to be a hard and fast argument around what actually occurred. It did appear to be a sling tackle, and if she didn't have the earlier incident in the year, she probably would have been okay. So that was sort of the problem.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that they haven't made the right call in terms of, a penalty for the sling tackle.
Yeah.
Because it looked like it was something that should be
sanctioned. Well, the arm was pinned and there was a few things that... she can appeal. Thursday night would be the appeal if she decided to go again. I'm not sure if there's any... I don't think, but I have to check. I haven't checked if there's any extra penalty if she appeals again.
I don't think
I don't think it is. I think so they might just do that because it's worth trying.
They have to. I mean,
which is what last night was about. It was about exhausting me. If she was missing round 3, no one would have cared.
No, they have to try it. They have to try whatever they can. Maybe even put her in a disguise on match day.
Do you think that could work?
Just...
No one's tried to do that before.
I'm just coming up with random ideas here.
He's a thinker.
Dye your hair, wear a different pair of boots, change your number. That's it. No. Away you go. Bit fine cotton, bit bold personality.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's not enough disguising people in sport.
Just might get away that you don't know. Geez, that woman looks like Katie Brennan.
Yeah, but amazing. Yeah, they could actually get someone. They could maybe get Bontempelli to play on the week. He's got long hair. They could maybe do a bit of makeup. Perfect.
Send him out there. It's been a great season.
I loved how, despite the AFL putting the AFLX over it, it was up against the Winter Olympics and a few things, and people wrote it off in the first round because the ratings were a bit down, but it was actually up against some other things that week. It's bounced back to be a terrific season.
The quality of football has been...
Oh, yeah. It's going to be exponential, the growth in the quality.
Yeah. Sabrina Frederick-Traub's performance in the last week of the season.
I'm just impressed you can say that name.
It's a ripper, isn't it? And even Adelaide's performance the week before to give themselves a shot of making the final.
Well, Adelaide, just their whole coming back from... They started with 2 losses and they had injuries galore, and Phillips, was injured the whole time. And Melbourne were close. That game between between the Western Bulldogs and Melbourne, it really could have gone either way. You'd played an extra 5 minutes. Who knows? And that's what you want. It was a classic prelim.
So do you reckon, Titus, that having the grand final on the first week of the AFL season is not the right fit?
Yeah, I would much prefer. You had last weekend where there was, no AFL and there was a few practice matches. I know VFL. Lower level games, but there was no JLT even. I just think you make it a big day. You make it a big thing. When I went last year up to the pub to watch it, and I know it happened as part of round 1 last time, the pub was packed to watch the AFLW. Everyone got down there, and I just think you can create a day out of it, a day from it. That could.
Do you reckon
really
they haven't had the confidence to do it just yet in year 2? They're still a little bit gun shy of trying to sell it as a big day and hoping they'll get 40,000?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to scheduling, I don't like to guess the AFL's logic because there doesn't appear to...
I'll guess it. It's called a cash register.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, look, I don't know. It's not even going to be at an AFL venue, so at least it's a standalone one this year. Last year, I think it was before the Brisbane's game, the Brisbane men's team game, as a curtain raiser, and actually more people left. More people went to the curtain raiser than the main game, which was kind of worrying. So
great for the AFLW.
Yeah, great for the AFLW. So this one, it's going to be at Icon Park, or Carlton's former home ground, Princess Park. So it'll be great, and I think it'll get a big crowd. So, you know, I just think give it its own day. I think people enjoy it. Put on TV. People get into it. I mean, especially down in Victoria. People follow anything AFL in Victoria.
Bounce a silver ball on a rectangular field.
Yeah, we'll even watch that. We'll complain about it, but we'll watch it. So that's at 12:35 it kicks off. Entry's free still for the grand final, but which I find amazing because, you know, you don't know if you show up if you're going to necessarily get in. So
it's interesting the
get
AFL,
there early.
It's just an indication of how wealthy an organisation it is in terms of its consolidated revenue, that it still has a loss leader approach to AFLW. You don't have to pay to go and watch it.
Yeah.
But that's great for fans, and the competition's prepared to absorb it for those reasons. At what point do they decide, okay, we're actually going to clip the ticket along the way here and ask people to pay? Or if they do it for too long, does it become impossible to do that?
I wouldn't be surprised if they start doing something next year, because they'll want to start charging memberships, and if they get a bit of revenue coming in through TV deal and things like that, which they're about to do, I think they'll start charging. You know, it might be $10. You know, it doesn't have to be. You know, I've never known the AFL to shy away from a commercial opportunity. But at the moment, they're trying to build it up also so that they can sell it for the TV rights. So getting more people in, it's worth it to them to, you know, be able to say the crowds are good, even if they're not paying, because it's all about TV rights.
And you hear some bullfed saying, "Oh, no one would go if they were being asked to pay." I think that's absolute bullshit. That definitely would go.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that's a problem with social media. You get people saying things and you go, is this an important voice or just some guy you would normally never talk to?
Or
Look at me.
Or a Russian bot.
That's right. Now, moving on to the cricket, we are still in there. It seems like it's been a long time off between the second and third test.
What have they all been doing over there?
Well, it seems they've been all just caught up in legal challenges mainly. Rabada, last night we got the result of his hearing around shoulder charging, the brutal shoulder charging of Steve Smith. I haven't seen anything so brutal since Clayton Oliver went down over in Perth when he almost got killed over there. Rabada went before a independent, a New Zealander, so I was already suspicious, Francis.
The fix was in.
The fix was
They're
in.
still smarting about the underarm, so they're getting us back with overruling.
That's right. This is the underarm revenge right here.
Revenge is a dish best served really late.
Cold, very cold. So New Zealand QC Michael Heron, he found that Rabada was guilty of inappropriate and disrespectful conduct. So that's the worst kind. Because can you be inappropriate and respectful? I don't know if you can.
That's a really interesting. Can you be inappropriate and respectful?
According to HR, I couldn't be at work. So he found that it was not deliberate, the physical conduct, and so therefore
he just ran straight at him and dipped his shoulder into him.
Yeah, so therefore he basically got it off. So it was a shoulder charge. It's illegal in rugby, and he still got off. And he's got form. He's got significant form, Rabada.
But can I just say, I'd rather that he plays than he didn't.
Really?
Absolutely.
You didn't want him rubbed out?
Well, I don't think he should be dropping his shoulder into a batsman walking off the field.
Well, the greatest batsman of all time.
Well, for now. But I love watching him bowl.
Oh, yeah.
I like what he brings to the contest.
I prefer just an easy win for the Aussies.
Really?
Yeah, like when this is the sort of sports fan I am. You know, like remember when Australia in the 2000s, late 90s was just dominating.
17 test wins in a row.
Yeah, and it was just ridiculous. And I remember all people saying, tests are boring now. And I, you know, maybe it's because I'm a Melbourne supporter and you're a St Kilda supporter.
It's definitely because of that.
I appreciate those moments. And now when we're not that good, okay, you know, I feel like saying these people, remember when you were complaining about us winning all the time? Like, don't complain when you're winning all the time. Enjoy it. I don't hear Hawthorn supporters in their, glory times, which is basically always, going, oh, we're just winning too much. It's boring now.
No, they had to cope with the great droughts.
They know how to deal with winning.
Yeah, and the drought of rounds 4 to 17.
Yeah. So I just wanted Rabada gone so it was a chance for us to win. I don't care. If people say, oh, but we didn't have this player, I'm like, good. It doesn't bother me.
I understand your logic and I kind of get it, but I love a really angry fast bowler.
Oh, yeah.
I just love a scary, angry fast bowler doing their thing.
Yeah.
I don't care who they play for. Some of the nastiest critters in cricket history have not been Australians who I've loved because they've just been.
Who would be your favourite?
Who's my favourite? So there's a couple of
the West Indies?
Yeah, there's a couple of West Indians in particular who were really... Patrick Patterson was scary and was basically out to kill people.
Yeah.
And he was really good at it. He wasn't around for very, very long as a fast bowler, but he loved to hurt people. He's probably my favourite.
Right.
Colin Croft was another one. So
this is an insight into your mind.
Yeah. Just love an angry fast bowler. Watching the batsman sort of like, needing the brown trousers, waiting at the crease.
Oh, I mean, it's like when they introduced World Series cricket and made the drop-in pitches and suddenly they needed helmets because the ball was just coming so fast.
Well, I remember being a kid when David Hooks wore that one from Andrew Roberts. And, that was live.
And he was back not long after.
No, incredibly, yeah. And Tony Greig came out with the bicycle helmet on.
And Kerry Packer drove him to the hospital in his Rolls Royce with blood everywhere. It's true.
And sent him the bill for the reupholstering.
He garnished his wages.
Exactly.
He bled all over my Rolls Royce.
His velour finish in the backseat.
Imagining Kerry just bought another one, just left the blood-stained one parked in the hospital and just never picked it up again.
Just as a warning to future batsmen, this is what will become of you if you get hit in the face by Andy Roberts.
It's still there.
So he gets off and he gets to play, but what it does show is that... the ICC, the cricket's disciplinary process is a pile of poop and doesn't work.
Oh, hasn't it? It's
pointless.
It's pointless.
They might have a chocolate wheel and just spin it and see where it lands and turn it into a game show.
Never trust New Zealander is what I always say.
That's the lesson out of this.
That's the lesson. That's the real problem. It should only be Australians judging Australians.
It sounded like Peter Dutton.
Exactly. We will decide who will judge Australian cricketers and the manner in which they'll judge them.
Yes, we will decide which cricketers we will play against and the manner in which we will play them.
A controversy that's been happening in the background for a while, but certainly escalated even more, and it's amazing it's got to this level really, is Matt Lodge, who, for those that don't know, who are not rugby league fans, and this is a story that sort of crosses over beyond league, Matt Lodge was a young player. And about 3 or 4 years ago, so it was in 2015, he was in New York on holiday, and in the street he started abusing. I don't think it was 2015 actually. It was about 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but he was in the street and it was nighttime in New York, and he's on the Upper West Side. He starts abusing a backpacker and starts yelling at her, and I think getting a bit physical with her, and says things on the lines of, tonight's the night, how does it feel that you're going to die? Tonight's the night you're going to die. So probably crossing the line there, Francis.
Just a little bit. Brought to you by Rugby League.
She then presses, because they're up on the Upper West Side and they have those apartment buildings, she, a bit like Seinfeld, she presses one of them to buzz someone and just randomly hoping someone answers. And a gentleman answers and comes down, lets her into the lobby. He then gets in with her, starts assaulting the bloke that's let her in, then pushes past the bloke and goes into the bloke's apartment and then locks the door. So the bloke is out in the lobby, and the bloke's family, his wife and his 9-year-old son, are cowering in the bathroom with the door locked, and Matt Lodge proceeds to start smashing the whole apartment and then starts trying to hit his way through the bathroom door with the young kid screaming, I'm too young to die. So, not a good night out for Lodge. So he gets arrested at gunpoint by the police who show up, and he gets found, he gets charged. It's a civil charge the family basically sue him under this.
Well, he did spend some time in an American jail.
Yeah, he did get arrested and that, but then he also had this civil case where they tried to get compensation from him.
$1.6 million.
Yeah, he refused to show up for that all-mounted offence, and then he hasn't paid any of the money that the court mandated that he should play. So the Brisbane Broncos a while ago decided, it's been a few years, been 2-3 years, let's get Lodge back in the NRL, and the NRL ticks off on it. So it's been an absolute, people are outraged across the league community as well as others, just saying this is, how can you let this guy back in? He hasn't showed much remorse, hasn't paid the money, all these various things. He debuted about 2 weeks ago on International Women's Day.
Perfect.
Which just shows you that the universe has a very dark sense of humour. He claimed that this was a sort of a one-off. He'd never done any of this stuff before.
You know what? That counts for diddly freaking squat.
Yeah,
you don't get 3 shots at it.
I know, this is the thing for me. This isn't a borderline case either. I don't know what is a borderline case, but it's not like he yelled at someone in public, or it's not like he got in, a fight. Someone, you hear stories of, say, a footballer gets in a fight at a nightclub, and you might go, well, but this is like an extreme case.
He's terrified at family
who are still terrified
and hasn't had the decency to pay the compensation.
Or apologise to them. They've had no contact with him. He
shouldn't be playing football with anybody.
No. So then it's come out after he said that he's doing all the right things, and Todd Greenberg, the NRL CEO's ticked off on him returning and been defending it, as have the Brisbane Broncos. It's then come to light that and this was the thing in 2015, in August 2015, his previous ex-girlfriend of his said it's just not true. She detailed that there was a long history of family violence towards her, emotional and physical abuse, and he had 8 counts of domestic violence-related offences back then in 2015, and all the court documents and the text messages he sent her abusing her. I won't read them all out, but they're quite horrendous. All, going to town. So it proves he's not even telling the truth about that. They go to the Brisbane Broncos, the media, and say, what do you say about these new revelations about the domestic violence and everything, on top of the New York incident? How do you feel now about letting him into your club? They say, we already knew about that. That's what they said. We already knew.
That's old news.
They don't even that's their whole thing. They put out a statement, we knew about this when we did it.
We live in an age now where there's a new awareness and a new strength within women to speak up and confront those that abuse, harass, and terrify them.
Yeah.
#MeToo.
Yeah.
And now we've got a rugby league community, or part of a rugby league community, goes #GetStuffed. We don't care. Because to allow him to continue to play, knowing all that they do, knowing that the ramifications for the family that were subject to that terrible night, to his former partner, and to women in general who look at that and go, you do not place any value whatsoever on the safety, sanctity and dignity of women. You're basically telling us to go get stuffed.
Yeah.
Why should football fans or sports fans cop that?
Well, this is the thing, this isn't, you hear people on Twitter say things like, defending Lodge, saying, these are social justice warriors complaining about this and all this. But the reality is, 1 woman a week in Australia dies from family violence. So, if it was anything else, we bag the Americans for their gun things, rightly so, and it's not on the scale of that, but it's an issue. It's a public safety issue of a massive scale.
But can I just jump in there, Titus?
Yeah.
When people say, it's just social justice warriors complaining, that's an easy out.
That's right.
Without having to actually deal or address the issue
with the reality
itself.
of the situation, because this isn't a political issue. This is a crime issue.
It's not about us. It's about what he's done.
And the thing about it is, I think where it comes to, this is the big thing in sport that sport wrestles with all the time, and I don't think it's ever really, it's sort of never come up with a clear position on it, is you either think sport is a privileged job and a privileged thing to be a part of, and therefore there are certain things that if you do, you will not be part of that. It's not that he can't be forgiven. It's not that he can't, once he's served appropriate punishments and rehab, that he can't be allowed back into the community and go get a job somewhere else. but it's, do we count sport as a privileged position in Australian society? Much like if you're a community, like you're a corporate director of a board, if you're shown to be not running a board properly, you can be disqualified from being a director. You can go and get other jobs. It's part of your punishment. So I think there's an argument that because sport conveys all these extra things and has this massive influence, that there are certain things like this on serious issues. You know, this isn't urinating on a car or something, you know.
Or
like
carrying a dildo in Fed Square.
Yeah.
Like Fev.
Yeah,
We could be here forever going through Fevs.
Who hasn't done that?
Well, after this, that's where I'm heading.
But that's the thing. That's where I think this one's interesting. But this to me is like, when people say, oh, you know, the precedents, to me, this is such not a borderline case. This isn't like when we're going, oh, you know, he's done stuff that you just go, no, that's it.
I couldn't agree with you more. This shouldn't be an agree-a-thon because it makes me sick to agree with you all the time and it makes me uncomfortable.
I'd like you to disagree with me on this one because I think then I'd put out, I can't believe Francis Leach is a pro-Matt Lodge guy. Anyway.
But it just does my mind in that they cannot see that he has not in any way taken any steps to address or redress the circumstances, and that for all of the NRL's espousal of values about, you know, sport's supposed to be about, you know, enhancing the human experience. We're supposed to become better people as a consequence of it, both as players and as fans. It's supposed to bring out the best virtues in us as people and as participants. Yet they overlook something like this because it's convenient to do so. I'm absolutely astounded. Todd Greenberg seems to me to be a smart, switched-on guy, that he's got a tin ear on this, that they've signed off on this and allowed this situation.
It's so bad. And I'll give you the, in response to when the Brisbane Broncos were approached about these more recent revelations, and in their statement they put out in response to it, the final bit was, the Brisbane Broncos have always taken the strongest stance against violence against women in any form.
Yeah, no, you
These
haven't.
are just meaningless words that people, like, do they, the thing that bugs me about that stuff, that corporations do it, governments do it, and sporting bodies do it. Do they think we're stupid? You know, if you're crafting that media release, you know, you can spin it a little bit this way or a little bit that way, maybe from the truth. But that's like, when they do that, it hurts them more putting that statement in than not, because everyone just goes, well, now you just treat me like I'm a moron.
They are morons. You idiots.
Cricket broadcast rights. The biggest day in Cricket Australia's current, is not the Test so much and not Rabada, but actually they got their bids from all the media companies of who's going to broadcast the sport for the next 5 years, came in on Monday. They put down very stringent control, like what they wanted people to bid on. So they basically had the A package, which was the test, the best test, the Ashes, and the best of the BBL, best of the one-dayers. And then they sort of had B, C, D, E, and you could buy combinations. It's a bit like a Chinese menu sort of thing. And you go, yeah, you know. And so it was sort of like, some were like, you know, the state games. So it was a combination you could buy. They're looking at potentially splitting some of the BBL off onto Foxtel and some onto whoever becomes the free-to-air carrier. But then the other thing that happens is not necessarily will all these options necessarily will the bids be compliant to that, because rarely in television broadcasting do the broadcasters actually go, that might be what you want us to buy, but this is what we're actually willing to buy, and we're the ones with all the enormous amounts of cash. Some of them that they've added in are various packages that address things like digital media rights in an attempt to try and get both Telstra and Facebook and Amazon and various things to also bid on the rights. What do you reckon's the best outcome for the fans of these sort of negotiations?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Because there's the one outcome that will happen definitely is there's going to be an oversupply of it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 24/7, 365, because they'll sell as much of it as possible. Look, I'm old-fashioned. I still think they've got to make sure that the key matches are on free-to-air television.
And the anti-siphoning laws enable that with certain things, but the problem we're seeing a bit is some of the commercial channels are just saying no, they don't want to carry some of it, which opens it up for the pay TV. Like the South African series is not on free-to-air.
No, I guess that's...
You have to have Foxtel.
Yeah, we've become kind of used to that, haven't we? Even for a while there, some of the Ashes series often... I mean, where SBS... If you remember, Titus had the 2005 series because I think Channel 7 and Channel 9 blanched the idea of broadcasting it And so that was swung over to SBS.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was Les Murray hosting that? I don't know. Was there an offside rule in cricket? The great Les Murray. So it's interesting because the Ashes remain the jewel, don't they? That is a definite revenue driver.
For the Tests, that's the
series. How much value is there in other Test series in the summer?
There's not a lot. I mean, India has okay because of the size of the audience back home, you can do certain things around that. But it's really the BBL. Like they're saying,
that's the real price.
So it's 150 million might be, say, a bid, and 60 million of that might be the Big Bash matches. I think the one-dayers are worth very little these days. Not what they were. I mean, they were something, but not what they were. It's BBL
the problem child of cricket, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. My biggest fear is Nine ends up with all of it.
Well, I think they should insist that Warnie is on every broadcast.
I don't think you need to worry about that.
Warnie is on every broadcast talking about his favourite pizza toppings, and we'll all be happy.
Channel 10 looked like they were completely out of this 6 months or a year ago, because of their financial problems. But now with CBS buying them, CBS in America has a history of sport and various other things. So they do probably have the funds now, Channel 10, to actually potentially bid on it.
I've liked their Big Bash coverage.
I think the Channel 10 coverage is... I think it's two things, right? Channel 9's been so bad for so long that standing next to it, Channel 10 looks even better than it is. Like, I think Channel 10's is very good, but because it's up against, comparing it against that, it's like if you work with someone and they're terrible, you look amazing just because you show up.
Make sure this is the lesson out of today. Make sure you get that desk next to that person.
That's right. That's what you want. So that'll be. We'll know soonish. But
so, what's your preferred option? Would you like a Channel 10?
I'd much prefer Channel 10 to have the vast majority, and only it's not. I mean, all of it on Channel 10 would be great, and they have some on maybe a digital channel. I just think Channel 10 do better coverage.
Well, Channel 7, we can mix it up and just get get Jim Courier doing the cricket. Doing a My Kitchen Rules out in between.
That's right. There's Will Ferrell wanders out.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer Channel 10 way over Channel 9. Like Channel 9 losing it I just think their coverage has been appalling, and I don't think they have cared about the fans' reaction to that for the longest time.
It's just been habitual, hasn't it? We turn on Channel 9 because that's what we've always done.
Michael Clark's the example. If you played, it's Channel 7 do it with their broadcast for footy. They only pick people who have played 300 games and done whatever, and I get that to an extent. I'm not saying they should go and get just Joe Blow off the street, but if you're a player who maybe played 100 games but is really insightful or a good broadcaster, you will never get picked up. And so what they've done is, they've got Damien Fleming, they've got Mark Ball, they've got Ponting. Ponting's a great. War was great. But, Fleming's not at the level. He wouldn't get a job on Channel 9 or the Channel 7 equivalent for footy.
But he's hugely entertaining.
So that's what I'm saying. There's these other people out there. Triple M have shown it with their radio coverage, actually, that there are other people like Merv Hughes and others out there who are actually good. But the other ones won't do that. You have to basically captain Australia. Or be Michael Slater, bizarrely.
Slats, I love slats.
Getting to round one. We'll run through round one because this is what everyone cares about.
It is. You've got to be here in Titus's den. It's festooned.
Electric.
It's festooned in red and blue.
It is, actually.
It's got red and blue scarves.
I've got
everywhere.
all my membership scarves out today.
You've spoken about this in the past, but yeah.
They've got to move on from scarves. There's only so many scarves I need.
We are keeping one Chinese factory town fully employed.
Well,
pumping out AFL scarves every year.
A tent out of all my membership scarves now.
That's about all they're worth. You won't need a tent because Melbourne players don't want to go on camp, remember?
No, we don't like camps. Terrible.
They like glamping.
I tell you what, we might get to that when we get to Melbourne about that, because my rant on that will probably go on for about 30 minutes.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Thursday night, we got the traditional Richmond versus Carlton. This match used to be like a horrendous start to the season, but now at least it's going to be Richmond unfurling the flag, and it's going to have 90,000 probably there.
So this is what's going to happen, as I said. So we go back to the Jim Jones thing. Or remember that cult that all wore Nike runners and thought they were in bed and they thought they were going to ascend into heaven?
That's right.
They were all eunuchs as well, strangely enough.
And I do love that, like they had the Nike runners, like they were sort of branded.
Yeah, just do it. That's what it's going to be like. So we'll unfurl the flag, and a big beam of light is just going to ascend the Tiger fans into heaven.
Gee, that would be
Logan's
great.
Run style.
That'd be handy.
It's going to be messianic.
I can't see this. Looking at the way Richmond played in the preseason, and that's not always a good indicator, but this once again is Carlton getting. I know it's not a Friday night, but it's sort of a premium slot, and they've got a lot this year. Like, why are we getting so much Carlton? It's just I can't see them doing well on Thursday night.
Would you prefer that they did for the sake of the competition?
Well, as a neutral on specific games, you always would prefer it to be slightly entertaining, But Carlton losing is always fun. I get your point.
Everybody wins on Thursday night.
Well, although could Richmond switch back to their previous form and provide some more comedy by? I don't see it.
That ship has sailed.
I think it has. I think I think Melbourne are now that team, so that's what I worry. Essendon play Adelaide on the Friday night. That's at Etihad Stadium.
I'm really fascinated by this because the Adelaide Crows had a horrible grand final day, and they had an even worse October.
Yeah.
They had a shocking October.
They lost Lever, and they got Gibbs.
But they carried on like pork chops afterwards, and they were sulky losers. And Tex Walker, I think, is in doubt or might not be playing in the first game.
And the Eagles never made it back after playing that grand final against Hawthorn.
What happened? They get lost in the lobby.
I think they did. It couldn't break you that as much as it's not always a short. We focus on you kind of have to lose one to then win one.
That's nonsense. We lost 2 in a row. We didn't win one.
Yeah, St Kilda know that, and Melbourne know that. Rory Sloane's got the whole "is he going to leave" thing over him this year too. So that's another distraction. The Crows don't seem to be able to get a run of clear air. Is their problem? Like if I was their fans, that's what I'd be annoyed about.
Yeah, well,
like you have the circus of Dangerfield, you have the circus of Lever, and you still do well. You're still recruiting well. You're still training well. You're still playing well, but you're just not getting that clear air to have a run at the flag.
Yeah, Gibbs could be the big difference if they can keep him out on the park. The Lever's a big loss. Intercept marking down back. They hung on to McGovern, which is important. Their forward setup looked great until grand final day when it just seemed to just not be able to cope with Richmond's frontal pressure.
Yeah.
So the Bombers are interesting because they've recruited like they mean it. So it feels like they've believed they're able to do much better than their.
I can't get a read on Essendon because some people are saying they're going to be amazing and and they could, but I think Joe Dana is a great player and they got I just don't know yet. I just haven't seen enough of them.
I think they can have a really good year. I think, I really.
Yeah, I think they can, but I'm not as a lot of people are very, very, bullish on them. Believe it, and I'm like, I can see that argument, but it's got to click on the field. You got to see enough of it.
When they win, they'll win in style. They'll play exciting, attractive, fast break footy. That's what they'll give you, definitely, because it's what they're recruited for. Getting Sardin at the back and those sorts of players who are running.
Stringer.
Yeah. Yep. Who's he going to turn out dressed like this time? He's going to be looking like one of the characters from when Apocalypse Now, when you meet, when you go under the bridge and Dennis Hopper's there with the cameras.
It's a bit like all the other players at Essendon. Their partners don't want them hanging out with Stringer. It's the tension. He brings a lot of baggage. St Kilda take on Brisbane at Etihad Stadium on the Saturday.
Can't wait.
You going to go along?
Yes, I'm hosting the president's function for this one.
Oh, la-di-da.
La-di-da. Maybe I get my scarf.
You'd want to beat Brisbane at Etihad. That would be a terrible start to the season. A loss there. It
wouldn't be great, would it?
What do you get the feeling of St Kilda this year? Because it seemed like last year you seemed to be on the rise, but then it just probably didn't get
plateaued.
It didn't get as high as people had necessarily thought you would.
So 12 wins the year before. I think it was 11 last year. So it wasn't.
It wasn't like it was just that I think people assumed you were going to go an extra step forward. And you didn't.
And particularly after the Richmond win in July of last year when they towed up the Tigers in Maddie's match and looked like the best team in the competition for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then it was downhill from there. So who knows? It's the post-revolt era. No Montagna. Who steps up and plays those roles? They'll be competitive in lots of games. It's now going to be whether one or two of those players who've played 50 or 60 games become an A grader. Not too many that are apparent, but I'm hoping Billings does. Gresham looks like he's capable of it.
Yeah.
Sinclair had a good year last year.
Need a forward line though.
Well, we need Paddy.
Yeah, basically. Port Adelaide take on Freo. I'm very interested to see how Port Adelaide go this year. with all their new plugins.
How are you going to cope if Jack Watts has a breakout year and wins a Brownlow?
Oh, you know me, I'm very magnanimous and just very calm. Look.
Jack Watts' pinata in the side of the room.
Yeah, that's right.
Just ready to go.
It's not something I'm staying awake at night worrying about because I just don't.
Is that kind of like being worried about the Earth being hit by a meteor? It could happen.
It could happen, but the odds are, it could happen any moment. But whether, the odds are a lot slighter than you think. Look, he could. The problem I have with Adelaide, apart from Rockcliffe, I don't think anyone that they brought in, like Motlow, are hard-edged players, and so
Jack Watts is not hard-edged.
So I don't know if that's as
he's the Vinnie Jones of Brighton.
Watts can do. Yeah, that's right. He can do incredibly silky, great stuff. There's no doubt he's a great player. But watching Richmond in the grand final last year, they're all across the ground manic pressure and complete lack of fear for tackling their bodies, just throwing them in there all the time, no matter what, with not one person shirking. I think that's why Goodwin wanted Watts gone, even though he's an asset in many ways. I just don't think you can win unless you've got that intensity of pressure. So
big question mark against Port then. Freo, Ross into the third year of his 500-year contract there.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because, if Fife's backing at full strength,
which he seems to have been in the pre-season.
Yeah, their ruck issues, I think, is that going to work for them? They're to me the biggest wild card. Like, you could actually make an argument that they will actually, after a couple of years of being down, have got key players like Fife coming back, and the system's been drilled into some of the younger. And Ross is obviously not a hopeless coach by a long shot. Knows what he's doing to make them competitive. That this could be the year actually
they'll improve. No doubt.
They could improve more than they're up. And also, they're out of the Melbourne bubble, so we don't get to hear or see them all as much as you do every other team. So they could surprise people. The Perth teams have to, if they win at home, if they become undefeatable, you can't beat them at home, and then they just pick up a few on the road. They suddenly become. So I could see them having the biggest upside of a lot of the lower teams.
So it's also the fact that the new stadium offers an extra 20,000 home fans to get in there and shout their guts out.
Yeah,
so is it
going to free kicks?
Yeah, is it going to become even harder?
Yeah, that's
for teams on the road to win in the West?
So who knows? They could also just fizz out and do what they did the last 2 years. So I don't know, but yeah, Fife got injured again. He's been injury prone, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets through the year. That's the other thing.
More time in his helicopter.
Gold Coast played North Melbourne. I think that's up in at Kazali Stadium, so that's up in Cairns.
That is about because of the Commonwealth Games. They have to take those games on the road.
So that should be fun. Good old North Melbourne know that the AFL don't like them when they schedule that as their first away game round one. Sending you to Cairns.
Can you feel the excitement?
They'd be thrilled. I don't think anyone's going to really watch that, are they? Gold Coast versus North Melbourne?
Well, maybe there's...
Are North going to be as bad as everyone says?
No, I don't think so. Someone's got to finish in the bottom three, don't they? But look, it's going to be tough for Chris Scott. Brad Scott, because, he's had that team a long time now. If they don't improve, he
was the one that decided to pull it all apart.
They've still got their war chest that nobody wants.
If only war chest could play.
They have to get a treasure map out and go and find it. They sort of were sort of hairy chested and said, "We've got a war chest. We're going to spin it on."
It's amazing. And it seems like no amount of money will get anyone over the line. They almost should just offer an insane amount to some rookie just to get them across, just to say they've signed someone.
Stuart Dew's first game in charge of the Gold Coast.
So we're going to get an idea in the first few weeks of how much work he's got cut out for him,
pretty tough gig to have them on the road for the first month of the season.
But I don't know, Gary gone, Ablett gone. I think is a positive for him. I actually think it is a positive, and I think. They've still got Lynch and May.
They've got Lynch for this year.
Yeah, but they've got building blocks, and it looks like he might stay. So they've got building blocks to build around Gold Coast, and the talent's been around. They've just been lazy. They have. You watch them, and they're just defensively. They don't play defence. They don't run both ways. So if he can instill just even a bit of that into them, that you're going to see some level of improvement.
Unless you get a holiday in Cairns, so it's worth it anyway. It's late season suntan on offer.
Hawthorn Collingwood. This is a Saturday night, I think this one is, and that'll be interesting.
Well, Collingwood rolled Hawthorn. Oh, no, Hawthorn just got across. I remember the last game last year was a great game between these two teams, wasn't it? I'm just trying to remember. Was it Hawthorn that just won?
Yeah, Nathan Buckley said he's not going to change the game plan this year.
Great. Every non-Collingwood fan goes, keep doing what you're doing, Nathan.
Do you know what? There's a part of me that, if I'm honest with what I believe, it's...
Speak from the heart, Titus.
Keeping Nathan is a terrible decision, and all he's done is take them backwards, and not all his fault, because I think the list management, I think the whole club has been a bit of a shambles, and they've got so many injuries again this year. So on the one hand, I think that, but then I remember back, and that was almost that was pretty much what I thought about Hardwick 12 months ago. So there's this little percentage chance where I go, but I think Hardwick at least had them. He had that season though they went backwards, but he at least had them competitive.
Well, they've been finalists for 3 years.
But they just couldn't win a final. But Buckley hasn't looked like getting him, even been close like that. He hasn't even
been treading water for 4 years, you'd say. Really?
Yeah, and their decision making on lists and that, and seeing them play, they did win that second JLT series game, but their first one was like eye-openingly bad. Now that can be okay if you're going to have it, but I remember watching Melbourne when they really sucked. And you could tell just watching a JLT game, even though, you could just tell from the skills that they were so far off. And Collingwood reminded me a little bit of that. Now, they might have improved a bit, and if they get some of their players back, they're competitive. They just seem to lack polish and a game plan. So maybe that's why Buckley didn't change it, because he doesn't have. You can't change something you don't have.
Yes, you can't turn. You can't turn dog dropping into strawberry jam. How long's he got? So I know that they've re-signed him. If it goes horribly pear-shaped, because the fans have been on a thin margin with Buckley for a while now, if they struggle early on...
and they lose their first 3 or 4 games, it's going to be...
Pressure's going to go.
The Pete's going to be just... It's going to not...
Does it refer upstairs?
But
can I ask you, does it refer upstairs? Because Maguire has steadfastly, and I admire this about Eddie, he steadfastly has backed his man. He's put the flag in the sand in that sense and said, he's our guy and we live and die by this. But if it does go wrong, does it land on his desk, Harry Truman style, the buck stops here?
Well, no, because Eddie's now been re-elected for, another 5 years or something.
Style?
Well, close to that. And
85% of the vote?
Yeah, that's right. 105% I think Putin got up on. So, look, of course it reflects on Eddie, because he engineered this crazy scheme to move on a coach that had them on a premiership, playing in grand finals, and had won a premiership in the previous 2 years, had one of the youngest premiership lists of all time, and he handed it over for no reason to someone he thought would be really great for the future, and it hasn't worked out. So it all lands on Eddie. Will it land on Eddie in terms of actual consequences? No. He'll stay. Who's going to roll him?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Eddie used to bang on about, when he wasn't president, about how Collingwood didn't have a succession plan for the chairmanship or the president and for various other roles, and here we are, and there isn't one at Collingwood. It's Eddie's club now. He has all the success at his feet, which he deserves a lot of, because they've won premierships and financially they're much better. But also means on something like this, it is totally at his door.
Yeah, certainly watching them closely, and the Hawks, Jago O'Meara and Jared Impey as well coming into that team.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
They could bounce back sickeningly really quickly. Again.
Oh, don't say that.
I know, sorry.
GWS take on the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are once again appear to be a bit of a mess in some
Liam
ways.
Picken, I really feel for Liam not being able to play.
And they've got issues coming out of the club, ones I know are not related to anything.
They're going to walk, they're going to run out onto the ground, they're going to see some inane statement on the banner. Their hearts are going to break because our man Danny McGinley hasn't been able to provide just a modicum of wit, intelligence and humour. And their season will be shot from when they crash through the crepe paper.
Well, they've had the stuff with Alberti. They've had a few weird things happening on. But then last time that all happened and they looked like a basket case off the field, they won the premiership. So these might be wonderful signs for the Bulldogs. GWS, this is their year in terms of if they... You could put it down a lot of it to youth, but losing the prelim finals back-to-back, this is sort of they have. This is their year to try and win it all.
No month,
anything less than a premiership is a failure for them this year.
I agree with you. The no Mumford thing's big. I think he's been enormous to their ability to bully teams.
Yeah,
I thought their prelim last year was pretty good. I know they got beaten by the Tigers.
Oh no, it was. It was But
given everything, Tomlinson was great that night. So yeah, I still think they can win the premiership. I think they're battle hardened enough and to know what it takes to win finals now. So. But there's no guarantees. We all thought, remember last year, everyone had basically painted their house charcoal and orange, those colours.
Yeah.
Thinking that was a walk-up start. Could they go through?
Well, that's what I mean. They suddenly go from being this unstoppable juggernaut in people's minds that's coming to are they the Greg Norman of football? when it really matters.
They'll all be having dinner at Trump's house and playing golf with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, that's right. Melbourne take on Geelong.
How excited are you?
Well, I'm excited. I mean, how much Geelong, who's playing for Geelong is a big thing on this. So tipping this is going to be a nightmare because they're saying Dangerfield's looking like he could be there, Ablett could be there, but we don't know, and we don't know where their fitness is. So we'll know that soon. Melbourne, I have to say, look, they've looked really good in the preseason and just on their natural, I think they've got a good group of players and their natural improvement skill-wise should see them probably get into the 8 this year and be a good team.
It'd be a massive disappointment for Demons fans if that doesn't happen.
If they don't make the 8, it's just... Now, the real question over them has always been... Are they mentally tough enough? Are they physically tough enough?
I think they answered that question when they went to the AFL Players Association and said, "I don't want to go on camp."
This is the two ways it can play out the AFL, the camp, right? Because it wasn't all the players; it was about 14 of them, and some players like Nathan Jones thought it was as bizarre a move to not go as anything else. So it really tore them around. Did the coach
nearly crack it?
Yeah, he was furious. He almost quit. Like, he made a joke about it, in a way, in the heat of the moment. But you think about it. So, in my mind, this can go one or two ways. Either that is just a clear indication that this is a weak group of players and they're mentally weak and they don't want to do the hard things, which crosses over onto on the field. Or when the going gets tough, they don't burrow in, but instead try and get around.
So they're all 3/4 time writing letters to the AFL Players Association. This is really hard.
The other thing you could say is... that they will feel like they owe Goodwin because they've embarrassed him. They now, if they are soft and don't perform, that it'll be on their heads because Goodwin tried to get them to go to this and they said no. So now to me, they've created a bit of a rod. They might not think like this, but to me, they've created a rod for their own back. They better show this year that, no, we were right about the camp because it was dangerous. Because their complaints, some of them are legit. Like when they had some of the injuries, like the dislocated kneecap and Christian Petrarca, there was no medical treatment there. So I can understand part of them saying, we don't mind doing a really tough thing, but you got to at least have the proper things in place, and we don't think you have with this camp. Now, Melbourne have said, well, we tried to get that stuff organised this time, and we did, and we were going to have different, and we'd take on your concerns. But to me, the bottom line is now it's on these players. Like the Christian Salems and others who have been part of that group that have complained, they better, they're going to be watched like absolute hawks for how they play. And if they play hard all year and Melbourne make the finals and go either deep or just do well, then no one will care. But if they don't, they've just created the biggest form of criticism that they'll ever cop. And Goodwin showed last year he'll move people on who he thinks are not tough and won't play hard. And that was Watts. That should have sent a very clear message to these guys. So I think it's fascinating how it's going to play out.
Yeah, they're going to get a sponsorship from Ray's Outdoors, each with a camp and a tent.
In my heart, I'm like, oh, this is not a good sign. Because
it won't matter if you beat Geelong in round one, though. At least for a little while. But if they do struggle or they have a few days...
Geelong, beating Geelong or not's one thing. It's all about making finals this year. That's all it is for Melbourne. If they don't make finals, it will be a disaster.
Then they can really go camping.
West Coast plays Sydney. Nick Nat looks like potentially playing, although...
They're worried about his condition, as they say.
Yeah, so who knows? I think that's a bit of their putting that out there as a bit of just making it difficult for others to know.
Great to have him back, though.
Sydney will be interesting at how they're going to go. They were disappointing last year. They were both magnificent and disappointing. The start of the season, the 0-5, really made it impossible for them.
And they were exhausted by the time they got to the finals. So they towed the Bombers up, and then
they had an amazing run, and then so they would be wanting to. They know if they probably had won maybe 3 of those 5, or even 2 of the first 5, they would have been in a much better position.
They looked okay.
Had a lot of injuries though.
So
yeah.
They'll be there or thereabouts. I mean, they've only missed the finals once in about the last 300 years.
Yeah. They would be a sneaky chance to go the whole way this year. You could see them doing it. They got the people.
Well, they brought in Lance Franklin for the purpose of becoming premiership regulars, and so far they've been there a couple of times and come up short. So
yeah.
I know he's still got how many more years left on that contract?
40 or something?
Something like that, yeah. So they're prepared to be patient.
Yeah.
So fascinating to watch.
Are
they mourning the retirement of Kurt Tippett? They did lose the ruckman as well, though.
Yeah, I know.
In, so that's
no
a
one
massive
can really bounce back
loss
after Kurt Tippett leaves you.
There was a suggestion somehow.
Look at Adelaide. Look how badly Adelaide have gone.
Terrible. There was murmurs that they were going to try to get him to come out of retirement to fill that role.
Yeah, I know. God.
I think so.
All right. Well, we're excited about that, and we'll be back next week to really dissect how bad or well it all went for us.
Because after the first round last year, after your Demons blitzed us in the Q2 and Q3 of that round 1 game,
yeah.
I instantly knew that St Kilda wasn't going to play finals that year.
Did you?
I knew. I just could tell by the gap between the speed and ball movement the Demons had that day.
Yeah.
And you only just missed out that we weren't quite good enough. And you know that I am a glass very empty kind of guy when it comes to AFL. Do you live or die by round 1 results? Do you crash as hard as I do?
It depends. Like there were a few in those terrible Melbourne years where they were just so bad. Like you were like, this isn't an off day. Like you've got players that just like we've got footballers who can't actually handball running around.
That's a problem.
So when you see that, you kind of. But then there's other ones where you go, they played okay, they just were a bit off today. So I don't instantly. I mean, Melbourne, you're always just like St Kilda, you're always just waiting for the train to come through the tunnel.
That's us.
That note,
we're tied to the tracks, people.
On that note, we'll see you next week.
Cheers.